In this video, we're going to learn how to handle footnotes and references for our WCAG standard in Microsoft Excel. Welcome to the Accessibility Guide channel. My name is Sean Jordison, and let's jump into the ring. Now, if you didn't know, it is not possible to make references and footnotes or endnotes, whatever we're calling them today, accessible in Microsoft Excel. There's just no way that we can programmatically connect those features to different points of data inside of that same workbook. We're going to talk about four main methods to get these references accessible in Excel. And the first method is inline integration. This is really the most accessible thing we can do, and that will include including the note information directly in the cell or creating an additional column for that specific note. The next option we're going to do is reference the content via a bracketed system of some kind, and that note is actually going to correspond to another data table underneath our table so that the user can infer which note we are referencing. The third option we're going to look at is actually using a comment-based system. Now, this isn't totally accessible, and the advice is to use this comment-based system for when the data is supplementary. And then finally, the fourth option, we're actually going to link the cell and have it jump the user to the location where the reference or the note occurs. Let's see what those things look like now. On my screen right now, I have an inaccessible method where we have 366 superscript, and then we have the superscript information below our data. Now, this video isn't meant to cover how to make Excel sheets accessible. You can check out that video, which is linked below in the description. Today, we're just talking about the references, endnotes, and footnotes. So this is not accessible. I can't programmatically connect these two items, the superscript to the data on the bottom. So the best thing that we can do is build it inline. That's the first option we're going to talk about. So in a perfect world, we have the ability to come over here and add a notes section, and we could put something like none, or in this example, we could copy the note and paste it and then delete the superscript out of our data cells. Then we would put none in the other cells. So we would have a fully comprehensive worksheet that contains all of our information. We could then set this cell to wrap by right-clicking it and selecting Format Cells. On the Alignment tab, we can select Wrap Text, then select OK. So that's one example that we can do. And then we would just delete that cell. So that's one example that we can make this accessible. So let's go ahead and undo all of that. And let's talk about option 2. So another option we can do is actually put it in the same cell. So forget the superscript, and instead, maybe let's put a bracket and put in our data. Effective 12/15/25, these results, blah, blah, blah. And then we can put another bracket and hit enter. Now, again, the cell's going to be maybe much longer, but at least all of our data is there and we don't have to go anywhere to find it. These are the most accessible ways that you can do a footnote, endnote. And again, we would delete the content out of that cell, but there are a couple of other options. Let's undo what we did and let's talk about another option. Let's take a moment to talk about this video sponsor. It's yours truly, the Accessibility Guide. Did you know that the Accessibility Guide now offers full training and support for how to make your documents accessible, including complicated Excel workbooks? But we also do training on the Microsoft Office suite, how to make your PDFs accessible, audio description, closed captioning, math and STEM, Canvas accessibility, and many other custom training opportunities. If you want to get training from me and deep dive into these complicated accessibility subjects, book a meeting with me right now. There's a link below this video. Now let's get back to the video. So in this example, we could actually build an inline note. So let's delete the superscript, and instead we're going to put a bracket for note 1. And if we had this like maybe several other notes, like there was different ones, note 2 through 400 or what have you, we could then come down here and actually insert another table. So we could have note and then we could have note information. And in this example, we would put our note information column, and then we would say note 1. This would allow us to then structure the content as a table. We're going to go ahead and say it has headers. Now, again, this is just one example of what we could do, but then the user is going to know that they can actually jump to that area in their Excel spreadsheet. So really, for the WCAG compliance, we want to make sure that our content is programmatically connected. And this gives us a slight version of that will actually work for users that are navigating complex content. Let's go ahead and undo that. And let's talk about another method we can do. Now, I don't love this method, but I have seen it done in some Excel worksheets that I have used in the past. And what that option is to use the comment feature. So instead of having the superscript data down here, you would simply right click the cell, and we're gonna do a new comment, and then we would leave the comment in there and send it. The problem with this is it only comes up when we're actually in the cell. So the user isn't gonna be able to find that information elsewhere unless they're literally in the cell. And then depending on the screen reader they're using, they actually need to do a hotkey to have that comment read aloud from within Excel. And really, it's gonna work better for supplemental information as opposed to like required information. Let's go ahead and undo that for now. There's one more super complicated method using named ranges and hyperlinks. So one example is if we create a named range for our note. Let's do that now. All right, so what we can do is select the note. We're gonna go to the formulas tab, and then in name manager, we're gonna select define name. Now here we can just call this like note 1, and we have the reference location as to where it takes us to. We can then select OK, but you can't have any spaces in there. Let's select OK, and now we have this called note 1. Now in theory, what we can do is delete the superscript, and then we're going to make this whole cell a hyperlink. We're going to select insert link. We're going to choose place in document, and then we're going to choose defined names as note 1. Then we're going to select OK. And what that does is it turns it into a hyperlink that will then jump the user to that location. Now this is definitely a more complex way to handle a notes section. And it's important that we put some information on our link as well. Let's right click it, select edit hyperlink, and we want to edit the screen tip as well to put some information in there like see note 1 information. That concludes today's video on how to handle references, footnotes, or endnotes, whatever we want to call them, within Microsoft Excel to ensure we are meeting our WCAG 2.1 AA guidelines. If you want to find out how I can help you get accessible, book a meeting with me right now. And as always, I can be your champion for inclusion. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you over in the next video.